Right, back and live with you tonight here on In Focus. Cosatu carrying out a nationwide shutdown, so to speak, but strikes throughout as they are calling for better economic conditions. The energy crisis being attended to, the collective bargaining being protected, amongst other issues that they have been raising. Cosatu's Deputy Parliamentary Officer, Tony Ehrenreich, and Denosa's Deputy General Secretary, Khaya Sodidi, are joining us now to reflect on the march and today. Good to have you, gentlemen, and thank you very much for your time. Essentially, Tony, you've given private sector and government 14 days to respond to a number of issues. One of them, I suppose, which is probably taking a large part of what needs to happen as far as improving the economy of the country, is resolving the energy crisis and ensuring a truly just transition. In the next 14 days, what would be for you an indication that your march today was taken seriously and something is being done about issues that you're raising around the production and the supply of energy in the country? Tony?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I've got a bit of load shedding, so I'm having a difficult time. But to go ahead, what have we hoped to achieve today? The main point was exactly what we're busy with now, that the issues under the reason for the protest are now part of a national conversation. And what is clear is that the challenges confronting us, from electricity to corruption to government undermining collective bargaining, all of those issues and the range of others that Cosatu has raised are areas of concern because the government is not responding to those issues fast enough. So sure, there has been undertakings that we're going to put an end to corruption, and even those guilty in government of corruption would be facing their orange overall soon. And whilst there were some responses to that initially, with the deputy president being removed from his position because of the PPE corruption, we are not happy with the urgency displayed by the president and the government as a whole in respect of dealing with those matters. So what we'd like to see now is, from government side, more urgency. We've raised our issues. We put them on the national agenda. We've communicated them to the whole country. It's now incumbent on business and government to give responses to the details that we've outlined, represents the key challenges confronting not only Cosatu members, but the South African society as a whole, given our slide into greater areas of difficulty around rising food prices, the rising levels of interest rates, the deepening levels of democracy, and then government just not moving urgently enough to address the challenges that confronts poor communities and the working class as a whole.
Yeah, and what would be a government-led pathway towards energy security be looking like? I mean, are you looking to hear a response from government in the next 2 weeks that says, for example, IPPs will be discontinued or at least will be slowed down?
Well, I think a number of points have been made in the arena of electricity that we want to see bolstered. Amongst them is exactly the energy mix between IPPs and coal-fired power stations, the issues about us exporting our best coal, the capacity and the maintenance of the coal-fired power stations, how we're managing that, the levels of corruption at all those institutions. All of that can see a short to medium-term response, and that's what we want to see from government. We've seen some improvements in the state of electricity availability since the new Minister of Electricity has come into office, and that's to be welcomed. But the continued non-availability of electricity has a huge impact on manufacturing generally, but also our ability of workers to continue to earn an income, because many companies are running into short time because of electricity challenges, and others are not considering further investments in the economy because of the challenges around electricity. So government's got to send a decisive signal that's clear in respect of what their approaches is going to be to the importance of the electricity mix and how we're going to ensure that we provide electricity security to all industries in South Africa. So that's what we want to see in the next 14 days, and we certainly think it's doable, but government's got to demonstrate the political will to respond to the South African challenges, not international obligations or multinational corporations. What's in the best interest of our people, and what is it that we can do in the next 14 days to ensure that there's a clear signal that restores hope, not only in the communities of South Africa, but also those that have been inquiring about making further investments into our economy.
Yeah. Khaya, let's bring you in the conversation as well. As far as the next 14 days on an energy crisis point of view, from Denosa, what would you like to see happen? I mean, we know how, for example, the load shedding has affected hospitals and has affected your members in particular. And we know how, for example, issues like exemptions that were promised of particular hospitals have not yet been fully carried out and adhered to as per how you would want them done. But in the next 14 days, if government was to be saying we are taking seriously what happened today as far as the marches are concerned, what would you like to see as government intervention on the energy crisis?
Thank you very much, Thabo, and good evening to yourself and your viewers and Comrade Tony. Of course, Thabo, I think Comrade Tony has said well, mouthful on the energy crisis we're facing. Of course, what we would like to see as Denosa in the healthcare sector is, number one, exactly what you talked about, Thabo, that we would like to see all healthcare institutions being declared or exempted from load shedding. That's what we would like to see in the next 14 days, that the government declares that all healthcare services are exempted from load shedding, because the issue of load shedding is not only robbing the communities of the country the service they deserve from the healthcare institutions, but it also reversing what is called life to people, because some of this load shedding they result to deaths of the patients, and also we find some of the services being closed, and therefore robbing the communities the service they deserve. Was part of the memorandum we delivered today. It was about poor or lack of service of public service to the people of the country. So issue of load shedding, indeed, it does impact to the service to the people of this country when it comes to healthcare services.
And for you, do you think, for example, taking to the streets is the correct platform that raises the kind of attention that you want on these vital issues that affect workers in our healthcare system?
Thabo, you've been, for many years, we've been in the boardroom with the department or with the state. Of course, it is necessary that from time to time we take to the streets to demonstrate our frustration and our anger, so that it gets the attention. Because by so doing, we engage in this protest action. It does get attention. For example, today we've been inundated by the media asking about what are the issues, memorandum. So it does get attention, national attention, and international attention for that matter. So as much as we engage, we do have what is called bargaining councils, whereby we raise these matters. But we also equally so think that it is necessary that from time to time we take these campaigns. Because remember, these are Cosatu campaigns that Cosatu has declared to take to the streets, to take these campaigns to the public, so that we can expose all the ills we are faced within our workplaces, both in private and public sector. So yes, it is necessary.
Yeah. But are you not concerned that it will certainly get attention today, and media will certainly give it the necessary coverage as it should, because as someone said, media people are also workers, and I suppose to an extent also affected by these issues. But it's in the eyes of government for today, but tomorrow it's back to normal and business as usual.
Yes, but remember, the time frame we give about 14 days is giving us for the next 2 weeks to engage. For example, where I was in Kabeja, where we handed over the memorandum, we've been promised by the MEC, who was deployed by the Premier, that they have actually started some of the issues we raised. They have started. They're inviting us so that we can engage further, and then we can get a progress report. Because they have promised that there's some progress, but it's that they are not reporting. So we in the next 14 days we'll be sitting down, see if there's indeed any progress or any willingness to do these issues. So we don't believe that it's a PR just for today. We believe that for the next 14 days, we should be getting feedback. And I think the media is welcome to contact us in the next week to check if we did get a feedback or not, which is we'll be happy to give if there's a feedback or not. And then we see what will be the next step if there's none, there's nothing moving.
Yeah. One of the other issues that's being raised is for government to recognize, and maybe to an extent even private sector, the importance of the collective bargaining platform, and ensuring that that particular platform is protected, because it's a platform for fair labor negotiations that will bring about fair labor practices. Do you think that there is that seriousness, of course, considering how the wage negotiations have been carried out in the last couple of cycles with government? Is there seriousness and a commitment to a fair collective bargaining process?
Thabo, we have engaged since, as you know, which forms part of our memorandum, the issue of attack of collective bargaining, particularly in public sector. We have raised that since last year. If you remember, we had a march on the 22nd of November last year. And since that time, there have been strides made from the side of government, at least from public sector, that they are committed, they remain committed, they don't have intention of killing collective bargaining. So since then, there have some agreements committing both parties. In particular, the state that they remain committed in respecting collective bargaining councils. So we remain, Thabo, hopeful that they will live to that. But of course, as it is now, we are still recovering of what happened in terms of seeing that there's a serious undermining of collective bargaining in the country, which is unfortunately our fear is to affect private sector. But as it is now, we remain hopeful because we have gone back now to the table in terms of the bargaining councils. We have gone back as parties with the employer, trying to address what could have gone wrong in the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah, we remain hopeful, and the only time will tell that they are respecting that. Because remember, in public sector, we've got a 2-year agreement, which is we are going to sit again in 2025. So from now to 2024, between now and 2024, we have committed that we want to amend the relationships that could have been affected negatively in the past 3 years or so.
Yeah. The question of crime is one that certainly affects all of society, and healthcare professionals are also beginning to see crime creeping into hospitals. I mean, people running off the streets and bringing their fights, for example, to clinics and places like that. What is your call as Denosa on this question of crime and how it affects your members?
Crime, Thabo, I mean, no one can deny that it's a serious problem for all South Africans. But indeed, as you have mentioned, that now we have seen that it's finding its way where it was not common in the hospitals, inside the hospitals. The criminals, the thugs, they are no longer respecting the health institutions. Same applies with the schools and so on. So our call as Denosa, we've been really calling for stricter security measures in the hospitals because our members, doctors, nurses, they have found been marked, some raped within the healthcare institutions due to lack of security. So our call has been the call of strengthening the security in the hospitals, because as it is now, we are not convinced that the security is good enough to protect our members. And it doesn't start where they work, Thabo. It starts when they leave their houses going to work. Because remember, the nurses, they are working shifts Some they leave their homes very early because they're clocking at 7 o'clock and they're expected to be at work by 6:30 so that they can take a report. And now it's winter, so it's a problem even leaving the houses just to catch a public transport that are being marked. So part of the memorandum today was calling for street lights, to improve the street lights, because this load shedding has since affected the street lights, which is making the situation worse for those who are working very early, going to work, and are coming back at night, because nurses are working what is called 7/7 shifts. So they leave home 5 o'clock, they go back home 8 o'clock, so they are always in the dark. So today we call that the issue of energy needs to be addressed urgently, so that the street lights can improve, so that it can minimize the attacks, because the thugs and the criminals, they take advantage of the darkness, which is now has hold our country at ransom.
All right, that is Denosa's Deputy General Secretary there, Khaya Sodidi. We lost Tony Ehrenreich there, who is a Deputy Parliamentary Officer to Cosatu, reflecting on the National Day of Action and what is expected now as a response from private sector as well as government on these issues being raised.